I'm Chara. This is my pitch Bible for my indie animation show called Super Wild. Sorry if you hear my dog. Oh my god, stop sighing. Anyway, um, so this is for my series called Super Wild, created by me. Um, hello. I already said hello. I'm sorry. I have speaker notes up here, obviously you can see them, I'm guessing. So, basically, Super Wild is a story about a city of animals that live together. Basically, like Zootopia. I mean, I'm not trying to say it's verbatim Zootopia, especially since these animals are like actual animals. They just like live in a human like society, I guess. So they're not actually like Zootopia where they're anthro animals. They wear clothes. Well, these guys kind of wear clothes. They wear like accessories more so than like clothes. But um technically they still make clothes just for animal shaped bodies. Anyways, so basically, they still have to live with a lot of challenges in the city due to differences in species and um you know the hierarchy of how things are, because there's still very much a hierarchy of it. So at its core, it's a found family show with like friends and learning to accept other people despite differences. So it's a superhero show with a lot of its tropes coming from superhero movies and comics. Um, I'm really excited to share this idea because this story basically came from me and my older brother used to play with our stuffed animals. Most of them were Webkins because my brother had a lot of Webkins. So we'd play this story where this group of animals are superheroes and their team is called Team Go-Go. Yes, very original, I know. Um, I wanted to keep that name since it's very much like tied to them, I feel like. I know it's a very like wow, Team Go-Go, okay. But this is a kid thing, so mostly we'll get into the rating of it or whatever later. But they fight to protect each other and their city, specifically from Black Panther, who's a panther, who's the father of our four main heroes. Um, Basically, his goals are to take over the city, control it, make it so then it's run by only felines, specifically his other panthers, but also just other felines as well, like specifically like cats, because that's what are mostly in the city, and it's definitely a cat hierarchy in this city. So he's like a billionaire, so he like has his own corporation. We'll get into all of that, but yeah. So basically, I was like, it's obviously going to be very different than when me and my brother played it as kids, but it's still very much gonna be inspired by it, like heavily, obviously. Taking all the characters are originally stuffed animals that we used to play with, like all the main characters at least. Obviously, there will be background characters who are like completely original, that I made specifically to really fill in the world, because there's a lot more going on in this than there was in the actual game we played. Because obviously we didn't have like a million stuffed animals that we could use for the whole city and for the whole story, I guess. We also see a lot of the wild, which I'll talk about that. Um, Anyways, so thank you for listening, for one. I know I'm not ending this, obviously. I'm just saying thank you for, if you want to pick this up, if you have a production studio and you want to pick this story up, please do that. I don't know. Right now, it's really just a concept, and I have a couple drawings, and obviously, I'm starting to write it. Um, Obviously, I'm gonna get other people to help, which I'll put the Google form in the description at the end. I'll talk about that and the Discord. So that's just our introduction. Okay, so basically Super Wild is a superhero fantasy animated series for an indie show. about a city of animals who fight against an evil corruption that wants to tear the city system apart. The city system is basically, all animals are treated equally, though I guess in a way it's like some are treated more equally than others, specifically felines being like the top of the hierarchy, I guess. So the city is Zootropolis. I know, super original. They're super pets who fight against Black Panther, who wants to take over the city and get rid of basically anyone who isn't a feline, or at least he wants to specifically be in control of anyone who isn't a feline. And his 4 children end up joining Team Go-Go to help protect Zootropolis. It's rated PG-13, as it's just cute animals. It can get a little dark though. That's why I'd say the teens is the general demographic. It's kind of similar to stories like Warrior Cats and Watership Down, with it having animals, but also not specifically like animals who are very like wild. I mean, it does have animals who are wild, obviously, but they live in a city and stuff, and it's a little more like, it's like a mix of Zootopia and the Warrior Cats and Watership Down type stories. So yeah. Anyway, so now we're gonna get into the characters. So this is our 4 main characters. This is George Panther. He's like our main character. At least of season 1, because I want there to be multiple seasons. So he's the second oldest son of Black Panther, and he's a golden Labrador, because their mom is a mix between a golden lab and a Dalmatian. We'll get into that. So he's very kind and compassionate towards other animals. He wants to learn about them, and he's willing to understand them and their lives, even though they live very differently than he does. And this is a very big struggle between him and his father, due to his father's very narrow-minded beliefs on other animals, especially ones that aren't felines. And he's not a feline, as you can tell. He's a canine, he's a dog. So, and even though he wants his father's approval, he isn't willing to change like himself that much to get that approval. If you understand that. He's naive a lot, because he doesn't know much, but he's obviously very curious. He wants to learn more about the world, about Zootropolis, and about other animals, and because he lived with his father, he's not very good at socializing with others. He's very goofy. He's very he's not shy per se. He can be outgoing. He's just kind of socially inept, I guess you could say. But he's very good at listening to other people's problems, and he's very good at bringing people together. Even if he doesn't know exactly how to say that, he can very much be the supporting. He's the supporting guy. He's very supportive. He's very much willing to listen and help people. He loves helping people, or I guess animals. So he grew up with his father again, and his siblings. I guess I should say 3, not 4, because he's one of the 4. But he grew up with them, so he barely he was homeschooled by his father, so he was only really taught about felines. He didn't know much about his own species growing up, and so that made him very much not understand when he actually started interacting with his own species. He kind of, it's very difficult for him to do that. So George's goal is to obviously help the people of Zootropolis, and make sure that all the animals are able to stay in harmony, stay together. He wants to protect them from specifically his father and his goals of completely taking over the city, and how he mistreats canines. George, he loves learning new things. he likes collecting comic books and exploring new places because he's very curious, specifically about his powers, and other animals' powers if they have powers. Not everyone has powers in this. We'll get, obviously, I'm not gonna really talk much about specifically their powers because their powers don't develop right away when the story starts. That's a thing that comes later because right now they're 17, they're all 17 years old. They all have the same date of birth because they were all born together basically. They're not, I guess they could be quadruplets, I guess. Well, no, not quadruplets. Yeah, no, quadruplets. Yeah, that's for 4, right? Yeah, so, yeah. I guess so. So, that's why he kind of does like superheroes, but he's not very much of a, like, oh, I'm so good at being a super. He's definitely someone who has to learn that and, learn more about what it's really like, because he's definitely not, like, immediately getting it. So, he's obviously very close with his siblings. However, with Joe specifically, which is his oldest brother, he's like the closest with their father. So George very much wants him to really see how their father is treating these animals and wanting to give him you know, make him see that, these guys are being treated terribly. They need to change their ways. So, speaking of, next we have Joe Panther, which is Joseph Panther, but he likes to go with Joe because I guess it's more casual. I don't know. I like to think that Black Panther does call him Joseph mostly because it's, that's his actual name, I guess. But he personally likes to go with Joe. So he's the oldest son. He is a black Labrador. And so basically, since he's the oldest, he's going to eventually become the next owner of Panther Corp, the Panther Corporation, which is, I still have to think about exactly what the business is, but obviously Black Panther, he's a billionaire, so his son is going to be the next billionaire. That's why he's wearing a tie in the picture there, because he's very professional. Anyway, so Joe obviously, he wants to make his father proud. He's kind of blind due to how much he wants his father's approval. He's kind of not blind per se, actually, but he doesn't acknowledge his father's hatred for other animals. He only really starts to finally pull away from him when they join Team Go-Go due to, finally realizing his father isn't all that great. He's a very fast learner. He can pick up most skills, which is probably why Black Panther really likes him so much, because he can easily pick up things. He knows a lot due to his father teaching him the most out of all of them. So he's very skilled, which kind of makes him out to be the best hero, honestly, out of the 4, because he's already kind of learned some stuff that could eventually help him, especially once he eventually gets his powers. So, yeah. Okay, so, yeah. Just like the rest of the siblings, he never got out much. He was the closest with his father, and obviously he'd see his negative reactions to things, but that never deterred Joe from believing he was a bad person or a bad father. So Black Panther would tell him things, and he'd just believe it because he wanted to be important to him. He wanted to help him make Zootropolis a better place, even though clearly it's not him trying to make it a better place. So his main goals at first are to try and follow his father's, goals, and but he still cares deeply about his siblings, so he wants them to understand why he's so their father's so hard on them, even though it's like, it's not a good reason. Because he never understood his father's hatred towards canines, which is, Joe's own species. So he never really understood, but he always just assumed there must have been a good reason for it. Especially considering their mom was a canine. So there must have been some good reason. But when he finds out, obviously, there isn't a good reason. It's a shitty ass reason, which we'll get to. So yeah, disappoints him greatly, and kind of reshapes his whole worldview on everything about Zootropolis, and specifically everything about himself, and his goals, and what he wants to do. So Joe also has terrible nightmares, randomly. Like, he's had these since he was a little puppy. He doesn't know why. He just has them. They're dreams about literally animals either killing him or killing his siblings or his father or anybody. And some of them are just like really weird. But it's just weird dreams. He's fine. He'll be fine in the morning. It's just a dream. It doesn't mean anything. Which, we're not gonna get to that though. You're gonna have to wait for that. But if the series gets picked up, or if I make it myself, I'm probably gonna make it myself. But anyway, so next is Petch Panther. He is the youngest of them. Why am I putting them not in the correct order? Because I'm putting them in importance level. I don't know. I'm not actually putting them in importance level. I don't know what order this is. I don't know. It's just order of whatever I wanted it to be. So, anyway, he's the youngest member of Team Go-Go as well. Well, technically all of them are. They're all 17, but but since he's the youngest out of the 17, he's the youngest out of all of Team Go-Go. So, he was not really looked at too much by his father. He was very much neglected by him, which motivated him to very much resent him, rightfully, because his father wouldn't really give him the time of day, and he kind of had a complex because of that. I mean, who the fuck wouldn't? So he always wanted to be different and still, like, prove his father wrong about him and about K9 specifically, because he knew his father, that was probably one of the main reasons why his father wasn't paying attention to him, other than him being just the youngest, which usually it's the opposite, when you think about that, it's usually the opposite of, oh, you pay attention to the youngest the most, because they're, the little baby, but not Panther, no. He ain't your regular the-mill dad. So he always actually wanted to become a hero, or at least wanted to help people. And finally when Team Go-Go comes into his life, basically, he's like, I'm on that shit. We're joining this team. George is the one, obviously, who comes up with the idea to join the team, but Petch is obviously the one who's, like, the most willing to, because he's the one who's definitely the most skilled and most able to be a hero, and specifically to be a leader. So he also doesn't like being seen as a joke, mostly because of his name. If you can't tell, I think the dad picked their names out. You can tell how little he cared for Petch and Domino, which we'll get to Domino. So he's very skilled at cooking. That's something that he does, and he gives great advice. He's very introverted, but he takes on the leadership role like that. He's very good at leading people. So he grew up alone most of the time, even though he obviously grew up still with his siblings, but since his father didn't pay attention to him, and the others were kind of too busy in their own shit, he kind of is just off on his own. And he was always not taken seriously because, baby, he's the baby, even though they're all basically the same age. But, So he has a strong sense of justice, which is another reason why he fits so well with Team Go-Go. He enjoys reading stories and going on long walks. And like I said before, he's a great baker. He's made food for his family, despite the fact that they have servants that could do that. He's very much skilled and he's very hardworking. I like that idea that he's very hardworking, mostly because I've been told that I'm like that. So, anyway, his goals are to be someone that people can depend on. Obviously, he wants to protect Zootropolis, and he specifically wants to take down his father. He's kind of vengeful. He wants revenge on him, which kind of rightfully so. But also, since Team Go-Go is very much not really a kill kind of group, they don't want to kill anybody, really, because mostly they're protecting people. The only reason they just fight Black Panther and his crew, they aren't trying to, kill them to stop them completely. Though Petch thinks that might be more effective, but he's willing to listen to them, because they're a team. If he wasn't willing to listen, then, the team would fall apart. So he's terrible at math. I just wanted to add that. Domino is good at it, so she helps him, and yeah. Finally we have Domino. She's the second youngest, and she's his only daughter. She's also the only cat, the only feline, which you'd think would make Black Panther like her more, but no, that's not what's happening. So, he only really pays attention to her. He gives her gifts and clothes and just pretty shiny things, like girly things, like her little bow on her head here, which she likes, but the fact that her looks is all that matters to him, which is kind of weird because she's her father, that's kind of... So, it gives her a massive complex. She's constantly worried about her looks and appearance, despite, she has so much potential to be way more than just a pretty face. She's smart, she's very much capable, but, So she can make clothes and dresses and stuff, and, she makes their capes and masks, which we'll get into those later. I don't have drawings for those, actually. I will eventually. But, yeah, so she's obsessed with her looks, like I said. She struggles through this throughout, the whole show. It just slowly gets better. Her father gave her that complex, and she, obviously sees how she treats people who aren't felines, and even though she is a feline, doesn't really give her a sense of closure, considering how he only views her for her looks. So, she's very much willing to leave when they decide to leave. She's generous. She loves making things for others. She loves being there for people. She enjoys helping young animals, making sure they are safe. She's definitely a gossiper, but she'll also listen to you, vent and stuff, obviously. So her main goals are actually just to make dresses and clothes for people, but obviously, with becoming a hero, that kind of changes. She still wants to do those things, though. But obviously there's a lot going on, and she wants to help as well. So other than that, she enjoys dancing, playing video games. Her favorite video games are more violent ones. They're all British, by the way. I don't know if I don't think there was anything to pick up on that. So, but they're all British. She's definitely the most British, if that makes sense. She has the most, all of them would have a British accent probably, but she'd have, the thickest one, I guess. I don't know. And she also is the most, posh, I guess, so she's very used to the servants and that lavish life. So when she starts living a non-lavish life, it's very difficult for her to get into that. So here's the reference sheets for all 4 of them. Sorry about the notifications. Okay, so next we have the members of Team Go-Go. So I want to talk about Super Buddy first. As you can see, there's a drawing of him. He is a husky. He was a puppy who grew up in Zootropolis with his father, who's named Wolf. and he knew Black Panther, the Black Panther that's their father, when he was little. They both went to school together, and get bullied because, Black Panther doesn't like canines. We've established that. And so one day in science class, he was accidentally pushed into a bunch of chemicals, and it gave him superpowers. Like, the typical, he's basically like Superman. He has the typical super strength, the flight. I think that's about it. I don't know, he just has that. So he originally didn't have powers, then he got powers. So he started wearing a cape, because, fun cape, because he has superpowers. So one day he was playing in the backyard. His father, who was watching them, was killed because he didn't hear Black Panther and his father behind them. Black Panther is the one who killed him, but Black Panther's father, Black Panther Senior, so he's technically Black Panther Junior, was teaching him, basically, and he killed him. And so Super Buddy found out, obviously, his dad was dead, so he ended up being an orphan, but he grew up. And when he grew up, he created the superhero team, Team Go-Go, because of Black Panther and his evil ways. Because obviously, by then, Black Panther was doing evil shit, because he was a grown-up, and he was now in charge of his billionaire company. Okay, so next we have Swingy the Lemur. Swingy's a lemur. He's an elder who lived in the woods with his lemur family, because they had a whole lemur group. But one day, they were attacked and killed, basically genocide. It's basically a genocide. And, so by Black Panther and his Panthers, which obviously forced Swingy to leave, and he went to live in Zootropolis, even though, Black Panther lives in Zootropolis. He finds out about this, and Super Buddy, recruits him. He becomes the second in command. By the way, he knows martial arts and can use his tail during fights. And he has a catchphrase, but I'll wait till that happens. We'll wait to talk about that. So other members of Team Go-Go, I decided to just do the block of text. I know, I'm sorry, but I'll just go over it real quick. We're not going to go over all this info, but so we have the three fighter family members. We got Tom, Sam, and Nat. They're all siblings. Nat is the adopted brother of them. He's a rhino. The other two are, Tom is a Cocker Spaniel, and Sam is a Golden Retriever, I believe. Yeah, Golden Retriever. So, Tom is the older one, Sam's the younger one, and obviously Nat's a little bit younger than them, and he's adopted by them. So, the fighter family, they're poor. They live on the poor side of Zootropolis, because they're canines. All canines are very poor in this. So, they, obviously, by their name, you can tell they're fighters. They like fighting. Tom and Sam really like fighting. Nat is the only one who doesn't really like fighting, despite technically being stronger than both of them, because, rhino. But he's more of a book-savvy guy, and Tom and Sam are, the roughhousers, but Tom is actually way sweeter with the community, with everybody, than Sam is. Sam's a little more judgy, especially with the Panthers. So next we have Baby Panda. So their name's Baby. They're not actually a baby. They're like the same age as Tom and Sam and them, which are they're like 20. So Baby's like 20. All these guys are like 20, except I think Angel is 18. I put Angel as 18 at the point of meeting everybody, at least. So, but everyone else is like in their 20s. So we have Baby. Baby used to grow up where in the woods with Swingy. They were both bestie buds. They're basically siblings. Why I'm using they them for Baby? They them pronouns, because they use they them pronouns and they're non-binary. We got non-binary representation, so that's Baby. They like to curl up in a ball and like knock people over like a bowling ball. Next we have Angel. She's a Chihuahua, and she grew up in Zootropolis, obviously, on the poorer side. Honestly, she kind of is from basically, I don't know how to describe it. Never mind. I'm gonna ignore that. But yeah, she has an ability. She can use her ears to fly because they're big enough, I guess. And she's very smart and very able, and she's very much against Black Panther, obviously, because Anthony, he's a bulldog. Yes, his last name's Atticus, because he's an ass kisser. Just kidding. I don't know. Yes, his whole thing is that he farts a lot. Very childish, I know. But he's a gentle giant, basically. He's much bigger because he's a bulldog, but he's very much he helps injured animals. So he's kind of like the healer of the group, I guess. And yeah, so that's Team Go-Go, at least so far. They get more members later, but that's Team Go-Go at the start of the show. Anyway, so we have our main antagonist, obviously. This is Black Panther Jr., which is Black Panther. Black Panther Sr. doesn't matter. He's been dead for a while. So Black Panther is the CEO of Panther Corp. He's a famous billionaire in Zootropolis. He's in his late 30s, and he has his 4 children who are 17. Basically, his goals are to kill and enslave people. He wants to rule the city and claim it for his feline tribe. So feline tribes, they come from the woods, or the city, the wild, I guess. I call it the woods and the wilds interchangeably, so just, yeah. His father, Black Panther Sr., decided to take him out of the woods and to Zootropolis because they wanted to take it over, slowly as time went on. So he grew up. Obviously, they made up their Panther Company. So then they could basically do this shit, legally, quote-unquote legally, because, billionaires, they get away with murder. So he gets away with it. So he I say tricked here. I guess he genuinely, yeah, no, I don't think he genuinely did. So yeah, I guess he tricked this dog who, her name is Goldie, into falling for him. They have their kids, but due to the fact that only one of them was feline, bitch, what did you think was gonna happen? I honestly don't know what the fuck would happen if a Black Panther and a Golden Labrador Dalmatian mix had fucking kids. So he decided to keep the kids, though, and train them to be successors, but honestly, that was probably the biggest mistake he ever made. Other than, no, that's definitely the biggest mistake. Well, other than mating with her in the first place, he didn't even need to do that. He just did that. He wanted kids. He wanted successors. So that's the main reason why, I guess. So he has powers because every tribe cat does. There's a lot of lore to go with that. Might be another time to talk about that. So, but his powers are that he has tail manipulation, mind manipulation, floating, and temporary immunity. He temporarily can't die. We'll talk about that later too. So, allies of him are Black Bear. He's a black bear. He's the guard of Black Panther. He's basically his bodyguard, I guess. He's just extra muscle, but he generally is actually really nice on the inside, but he's working for the bad guy, so. Next is Uniqua. Yes, that's how you say that. Uniqua. She's a lioness, with a slight mane. She's a small mane. Those lionesses that have manes? That's her. She's trans. That's made apparent later, but, or I guess it's made apparent with her mane, but whatever. So, Black Panther, gave her, because she's a lion of, felines, so that's why she works with them, and, she wants the lion tribe to have a piece of Zootropolis, once they take over Zootropolis. So Black Panther also has his own army of panthers, that came from the wild. They're not the same group that his father used to lead, because most of those guys are dead. But yeah, but they still obviously follow him because, Panther, they're gonna take over the city, and they basically kill animals that live in the woods. Because they don't really leave there, because, I don't think they'd be allowed in Zootropolis. Excuse me. So here's our 2 more references for Black Panther and Super Buddy. Okay. Next we have this is what I want Zootropolis to look like. Again, these are just random pictures of landscapes because I don't know how to draw landscapes yet. We'll work on that, or I'll have someone else do it. So this is just how I imagine it to look like. Just a city, usually I'm thinking Manhattan maybe. Here's some more, the trees surrounding it. It's very pretty, very greenery city that kind of has New York, New Jersey elements to it. So, yeah. So about Zootropolis, it's a city where all animals can live in harmony. All of them are allowed. Canines tend to be the lower class members of society, while the felines are the higher class. We'll get into why that is, but yeah. So the city's very large. We got lots of parks, Doggy Park, Panther Corp, Milk Bar, downtown, Rodent Village, and the Outback, which is where the reptiles and those guys are. So a list of animals that are other than felines and canines live there, like bears, birds, rodents, reptiles, primates, giraffes, zebras, elephants, and amphibians, and other animals too, but those are the main ones, I guess. The wild. So no pictures, because it's just a woods, a forest, It's the wild. It's a couple of miles outside of the city. A lot of different animals live there. So basically, they have to hunt, obviously, for their food, because, they live in the wild, so they kill other animals. While in Zootropolis, it's more so, special made diets that, are basically their actual food, but not really. So in the wild, most animals actually live in groups instead of, you might be thinking, Black Panthers don't live in groups. They live alone. So do foxes and other animals like that. Well, in this, they all live together, okay? It doesn't make sense for them not to live together in my story. So, they all live together. So, and they have tribes. But the main tribes are the 4 canine tribes and 4 feline tribes. Not all of these live in, the wild. They live in other places, like savannas and rainforests. The main tribes that live in the wild are the Panther tribe and the Fox tribe. These 2 tribes compete with each other. It's not for food reasons. It's just because they want to kill each other for fun. Now, it's not just for fun. It's also for taking over and controlling the whole area. Because as they have powers, these groups have special powers unique to them, and it's only these guys who are born with them. These powers specific to them. All of them, though, have temporary immunity. And, yeah, when I say temporary, that is it. Because so, basically, when they turn 18, they get their powers. Mainly this one. But they can only die 3 times. And then after the 3rd time they die, they're dead forever. They dead forever. It's basically like with warrior cats with the 9 lives, except they only get 3. 3! And after that, they're donezo. But, still, it's very hard for them, even though they're always fighting, it's still hard for them all to just die so quickly. So, it's still very much easier for them to kill them when they're children, so then, before they turn 18, so then they don't be immortal in quotes, because, not really immortal. So, canines and felines, they want to rule over every animal, obviously, because, we're born with powers. We deserve to have everything. So that's their whole reasons for everything. That's why Black Panther wants to take over the city, because he's like, I have powers, bro. I can be in charge of all of this. And that's what his father wanted. That's what all of them want. You might be wondering, what the Fox tribe, do they ever come into this? Because why are you only talking about Black Panthers? You'll see. One, you'll see. Two, they're not important for the beginning of this because we're focusing more so in Zootropolis, with them going to the woods to make sure the few animals that live there that aren't felines or canines are safe. So obviously note that all of this can change, but the world building I think will mostly stay the same, but I might, since this is very early in the development, it could change. Plus I could get another writer who's like, this is fucking trash. I'll be like, damn, okay. Alright. Okay. We'll redo this part. But yeah, the character designs will mostly stay the same. I don't know. I want some differences maybe, but they're gonna mostly be the same. So overall story is gonna be the same, with the characters fighting to save their city and learn to work together to stop Black Panther. So what would the pilot be like? So my idea for the pilot is obviously to introduce the characters in the world, but slowly, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of characters, as you can tell. But the main goal is obviously to introduce our 4 main characters, George, Petch, Joe, and Domino, and their dynamic with their father, Black Panther, setting him up as the main antagonist, who our heroes have to learn to let go of, because, he's their father. It's going to be difficult to fight against your father, Now, they're not facing their father, though. At least not yet. But, yeah, it's definitely still very difficult you've been living with this man for your whole life, and then now you have to learn to fight him. Like, even if you already didn't have a good relationship with him, that's still a very difficult thing to do. He's still your blood, Even if he's terrible. So, they have to, learn to, live with Team Go-Go, this team of all animals that they've never been near. Like, there's no felines in Team Go-Go, if you notice that. Except Domino now. So she's gonna have to learn how to be around anyone who isn't a feline too. And it's gonna be a whole thing. Obviously. So yeah, that's basically... So yeah, I have all the first 10 episodes of the first season, as concepts done, but obviously I gotta, actually write them, and I gotta, But that's where you guys come in! Okay, so now, I'd like you to go into the description of this video and see if you find a Google Doc. I mean, not a Google Doc, a Google, form. Yes, the Google form. It's in there. Go in there. Fill that out if you'd like to join the team. And the Discord server is linked in that Google form. So you join that, you come here, and you join the server, and it's very cool. Okay. And you become a part of the team. Obviously, I gotta get my animation software, so that's gonna be a thing too, but I'm gonna get it soon. Don't worry. I'm going on vacation soon, as I'm doing this video. I don't know, I might be back. I probably won't be back once this comes out, actually. But, yeah, so that's it. This is my super wild pitch Bible. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring, if you care. If you don't, then okay, thanks. Thank you. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. Bye! Please look in the description for that. Thank you.